just how good are F1 esports setups. People say they're phenomenal. Some people say they don't make a difference. So I'm going to put that to the test using my own F1 esports setups. I'm going to compare that with AI generated setups and put them directly head to head. With that being said, let's get into the video and make us a setup. Step 1, we need to make a setup. So of course we need to be polite. Hi, how are you? I'm doing great, thanks for asking. How about you? Doing great. Cheers. Lovely jubbly. I need a better setup for F1 24, and we're gonna do Mexico. Oh, I put a hashtag at the end. My bad. Let's see what ChatGPT comes up with today. Searching the web, what have they got? They're searching the web for a long time. I'm actually quite interested to see what they can do for Mexico, because it's not the most common track. Oh, okay. This is quite in detail, isn't it? Wow. Okay. Updated after handling patch. Lovely jubbly. So let's see what this is basically saying. So we want 35. We don't want around. We want the right number. Okay, anyway. So around 35 on the front wing, 22 on the rear. That's going to be quite oversteery, I'm not going to lie. Setting up on-throttle differential, 60% helps manage traction. I can already tell you that's wrong. Off-throttle around 55. It definitely aids stability, and you'll be understeering off the track. An engine braking setting of 80 to enhance further control. I do agree with the control statement there, because when you lower the engine braking, it does make the car easier to control, but it's much slower. Maximizing negative camber with front toe. Okay, yeah, I mean, I can understand that. Front and rear toe, yeah, I can understand that. The front and rear toe is to be honest, quite normal. Front suspension setting with 40. That's pretty decent. That's pretty good. Combining with a rear suspension stiffness of 6. Again, that's pretty decent, to be honest. That is pretty decent. Front and rear anti-roll bar of 19 and 15. That makes sense with the wing level. But of course, I think everyone knows that you need to go higher on the rear anti-roll bar to have a bit more pace in F124. So I'm interested to see how the compromise on anti-roll bar works with the compromise on wing level. Front ride height of 25. Mate, I think you could get a bus in between the front wing and the floor of the car. Of the floor of the road, I should say, with 25. Rear ride height of 58. Pretty decent, to be honest. Optimal braking performance can be achieved with braking pressure of 155 brake bias. I agree with that. The brake pressure is quite obvious. But then with the brake bias of 55, I think, to be honest, it's a nice level to have for everyone trying to put on a setup. Setting up front tire pressure to 28.5 right, 29.5 left. Okay. And rear tire pressure of 26.5. Okay, the rear PSI makes sense. It's important to note the handling model has undergone significant changes, adjusting your setup to accommodate. Yeah, fair. We don't know when the setup was made. So with that being said, let's crack on. Let's get into it. I'm interested, actually. Can we have less understeer? Let's see. Can we have less understeer? Oh! Okay, now this is cooking. This is lovely jubbly. I'm having a bit too much fun with this. Maybe I should have used this for F1 esports. Oh. Thanks, ChatGPT. Apparently, I'm not washed. Thank you very much. With that being said, let's hit the track. Here we are in Mexico, loading the setup. We need to be putting it in. I've got it written down right here. So, of course, if you want to try this at home, feel free. We're going to go 38 on the front wing and then 24 on the rear. I've made this as stable as I can from what ChatGPT said. So just keep that in mind, because I think it's going to be a bit oversteery, to be honest. 50% off-throttle differential, then 80% braking, and then we're going to have 3.5 on the front, when it's fully to the left, 2.2 on the rear, and then 0.5 on the front with the front toe out, and then all the way 0 on the rear. Then we're going to be heading over with 37 on the front suspension stiffness, with 6 on the rear. What is the anti-rolls going to be? That's going to be 21 on the front. Well, of course, it's going to help the stability with that interesting wing difference. Then 15 on the rear anti-roll bar, 25 on the front ride height, and I can tell you those curves in sector 1 are not going to exist with this ride height configuration. And then 58 on the rear, 100% braking pressure, 55 brake bias, and this is where we're going to go 29 on the, well, 28.5 on the front right PSI, 29 maximum PSI, I should say, on the front left, and maximum on the rear as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is maximum on the rear as well. So that's the setup. What we're going to be doing is using the same battery config that I use in F1 esports, and of course this is a slightly different game mode as well. If you're not aware, there is a thing that when you run 60 FPS in game, it is faster, and I have currently my thing turned off, so my game is unlimited on its FPS usage, so just bear with that in mind. So now saving that setup, let's go chat GPT. Lovely jubbly F1 World Car. We actually need to take out the fuel. Oh, we don't need to take out the fuel. Lovely jubbly. It's already at 5 kilograms. So here we are on track on Mexico. First lap of this setup coming up. I'm pretty interested to see how this is going to feel. And you can see on the bottom right, we're using the same brake bias and differential setting as ChatGPT has recommended. So heading in, I think the middle sector is going to be a bit slip and slidey, and I feel like that low speed rotation is going to be lacking due to that very high off-throttle differential percentage. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't turn. Right, let's see how it's going to feel when we get into this middle sector, where it's going to be requiring a bit more rotation for the car. Yeah, you can see the car. The thing is, it actually is quite confidence inspiring, in all honesty. Like, it is very, very, very stable. And you could probably drive this car quite easily, invalidation, over a whole race stint. Like, it is genuinely quite a nice car balance, in all fairness to it. Coming to the end of Sector 2 now, we're on a 55.3, what isn't massively quick, to be honest. Yeah, you can see just understeering off the track, and I mean, to be honest, I can't really give the setup that much slack, because it's not that bad, in all honesty. Like, it's not quick, it's not the quickest thing ever, but it's genuinely not terrible in the way that it feels, and it's quite confidence inspiring. So let's head back into the garage, and then we'll be putting on a new set of tyres. And then seeing how we can extrapolate a little bit more pace. 10 minutes to go in the session, and we're basically just going to keep on cycling this until I get a point where I feel really good, really comfortable with the setup. Then we're going to do a really big push lap to try and maximize it and see what pace we can get out of the car. I think that was a 13.8 on our first lap. Of course, we invalidated by cutting the high-speed left-hander, but let's see what we can get a little bit more. I think now with the understeer, I can anticipate what the car is going to do a little bit better, and adjust my inputs accordingly to maximize that. So this lap, I'm really going to focus on minimizing that understeer. I talked about it in a previous video about now looking to just try and shorten the distance around the corners and just really be precise with my racing line when the car's understeering. That's basically all you can do. Ooh, bit of curb use there. I didn't like that. Probably a more mistake on my driving input, to be honest. But yeah, just really focusing on that driving line to try and anticipate any understeer that might come through, and just shortening the distance around the corners as much as possible. You can see that was pretty sweet through there. Now into the right-hander, keep the car tight, looking for that traction. Now try not to invalidate through this left-hander like we did last time. That was way too conservative though. It's easy to get caught out by the understeer, because if you don't anticipate it correctly, then it's just going to wash out wide because that off-road differential really hard to recover the car. 8 tenths up on our previous lap though. Through the right-hander, back on the power. That was pretty decent. Into the hairpin. That line was beautiful. Over the curb, into 4th, and then into final corner. Drop it down to 3rd. Building back up on the power. Let's see what we can do. Over the line, we do a 13.7. Lovely job. It puts us top against the AI. Let's see what the AI are doing. And they don't have... Actually, no, they do have AI. They do have AI setups. Of course they do. But not the ones that we have. So... the AI are churning out lap times of 14.0. So that's quite interesting to me. That basically now by putting on AI setups, it's kind of nullified the gap towards the AI raw pace. So let's see. I think they're out on track at the moment. So yeah, they're finishing. No, they're not finishing their lap. I think these are in laps. So we'll check what Lance Stroll's doing. I think he'll be coming back into the box. Maybe not. So maybe they are finishing the laps. It was first gear and the hairpin was a bit strange. I want to ride on board with Max to see what pace he can achieve out of the car. Because if he does improve and goes below a 1 minute 14, it will be quite fascinating to see the pace difference from AI setup from ChatGPT and AI setup from AI. And he did a 13.8. Well, actually puts us quite close to the pace of the AI. So... we're going to go out for a 3rd and final lap in this session and basically see what we can do to improve. For my driving, especially in the first sector, I would say there's about another 10th in that first sector, maybe 10th and a half if I nail it. Another 10th in the high-speed left-hander by just cutting the grass a bit more. And then the final sector was pretty sweet anyway. So let's see what we can do. Just showing you one more time the setup that we're on before we go out on track. And yeah, like I say, it's a decent setup. It's just got too much understeer, especially if you oversaturate the front tire. Then you're really going to suffer and wash out wide as a net result of that. Always using the go to track feature in the game. Simply then because it spawns us with the same tire temp, the same tire wear as we go into the final sector, just to make the test a bit more consistent and a bit more conclusive, and a bit more fair as well. Otherwise, if I'm warming up the tires slightly differently, it will affect the car balance. Going through the final corner, 30 seconds left on the clock. Let's see what we can do. Building up the power now into 5th. Turn on that overtake button into 7th. Flying down the back straight right now. And now just basically turning off the battery, we get to 40%. And now running down into the braking zone. Hit the brake. Lovely. Got a nice line through there. Cut the curbs a bit better than last time. We do. It's interesting. Oh, we actually invalidated there. That's not good. Let's see what lap time we can do nevertheless, though. And what we can get out of the car. We don't improve the first sector. It's actually exactly the same lap time as before, and you can see the car is just really struggling with that understeer now. So as soon as you actually start to push this car, the understeer just holds you back, and you're completely limited just by the front axle. So you really have to focus on your racing lines. Let's see what we can do. Coming across the second sector split now, we're running low on the batteries, we're deploying as much, and we're 0.65 up, so under a 10th up on our previous lap time. Going through the hairpin, what can we do? That was a decent racing line. A bit of understeer mid-corner, though. Up to the final apex of the lap. Cut the curb on the inside. Using the overtake button. I think it's going to be about a 13.6. 13.5 across the line. Of course, with the invalidation. So we'll go into the timing page in just a second. And get a direct head-to-head. Then load. the actual F1 esports setup and see what lap time we can get out of it. So as you can see on the screen now, we actually was 1,000th of a second slower through the first sector split. Even while I thought I was taking the curbs better, I'm a bit surprised actually, because the car really struggled on the curb usage, even with the super high front ride height and also not maxed out front suspension. What, to be honest, is normally the meta on F1 24. So that's quite interesting. And the way I would summarize it is, yeah, I still agree with my initial conclusion and my initial feeling. So as you can see now on the timing page, 1,000th of a second slower in the first sector split, and then finding a bit of lap time as the lap progressed. Bit surprised by that, to be honest, though, because of the super high front ride height and additionally the not maxed out front suspension. I was expecting it to be so much better over curb usage, but it really struggled, and the car was quite unpredictable in that situation. To be honest, 41, 40 maybe is the meta on the front suspension numbers, so it should have been better over the curbs compared to what I'm used to, but yeah, it wasn't. And as you can see, as the lap went on, the understeer was hindering. So it's a setup that you can really jump on and you can find the limit quite easily. And it's something that is quite nice if you're not really having that much experience with setup and you just want something to drive. But yeah, if you want to start pushing the car more and more and more, it's something that I think you're going to struggle with to get the maximum lap time out of it. So 13.570 is our target to compare to with the full-fledged F1 esports setup. What can we do? I'm excited to see the difference that it will be. Now getting into loading the full F1 esports setup and seeing what we can do with this. I just want to say quickly as well, unfortunately I can't share with you the exact numbers of this setup purely because I have my NDA, non-disclosure agreement with Sauber and RHE Esports, because of course I raced in the previous year of the F1 Sim Racing World Championship and used this setup in an official qualifying and the racing situation as well. So it would be me breaking my contract and I would become liable if I did share with you the numbers and the setup of the car. So I'd love to, but unfortunately I can't. With that being said though, we're going to be hitting the track and of course we have a 13.5 to go out and beat. Now we're going to be going through the final sector. Want to make sure that we start our lap ahead of that pass though, otherwise we might get blocked. But expecting a lot more rotation in the middle of the corner with this car, especially with the setup now. So that's something to watch out for with yourself at home, is just how the car can be rotating. And I think it should even be a bit better over the curb usage in Sector 1, despite the previous setup being quite soft on the suspension springs. Going in a lot more rotation already. You can just see the car is picking up that rotation. It actually is better over the curb usage as well. Going down to ending Sector 1, now keeping it in 7th gear, into 4th for the first part, let the rotation do its work, down into 3rd, and you can see it's picking up that little bit more rotation, but it's just very lovely jubbly, picking it back up the power, using a bit of that overtake button in the same way as I did before, into the left hand. You can see the car just floats over the grass so much nicer and so much more precise on how to manage. And to be honest, I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss this about F1 sim racing, right? Just setting up the car and extracting that performance a bit wide from the apex there. And now into the left-hander. Look at that rotation for the hairpin. And so much easier over that bump on the inside as well. And that's what you get from just grinding hours on the F1 game. Across the line, we did a 13.2 on our very first lap. And yeah, that's what I was saying. Just that's what you get for grinding setups on the F1 game. You get more rotation, more grip, more confidence, better curve usage. And it is just unbelievable. Even for me, looking at this right now, how much better the car setup is when you've had that engineer support, that work behind the scenes to just maximize performance. Strapping on a second set of tires right now to see what we can do. I think already looking at this, the first sector we have a little bit of performance. The second sector was pretty sweet, so we're not going to improve much apart from the track evolution. Then the final sector, I think I have a 10th because I missed the apex when opening up the right hander going into the stadium section. So Second lap rolling up right now. We're already 3 attempts clear, 3 and a bit of attempts clear of the ChatGPT setup. What isn't bad, to be honest. It's not bad. The fact that the internet made a setup that was available to use for free, and it was only 3 and a bit attempts off on our first lap. It's not that bad, honestly. It's not that bad. And in all fairness to it, if you were just looking to play the game casually, you didn't want to buy or grind or do whatever to get F1 game setups, that's not a bad option. But with that being said, time to focus for this next lap coming up, draining the battery down to 40% again. Same brake bias, as you can see, 100% differential, because it's just the meta on this game, getting the car slowed down. Nice rotation, keeping the car nice and calm over these inside curves, looking to build up the power. A little bit of wiggle on the traction, but now heading down to end sector 1. Is it an improvement? It is by 0.3 of a tenth down. Let the rotation again. Pretty sluggish through there, to be honest, on my driving. Didn't really maximize it. A little bit of wiggle on the power. What can we do for this left-hander? Oh, that was committed, but a bit slow. I committed on the entry, then hesitated. Now through the right-hander, through the left, using up a lot of our battery, opening up the DRS and ERS again. And we didn't gain much time during the second sector, but we still did gain time nevertheless. Look at that curb usage. Into the hairpin, get the car rotated, back on the power. Oh, I lost the traction there. Just the rears, I think, starting to struggle. Of course, more rotation does put more heat and load into it. We're not going to improve. We didn't even improve our lap time. We did the same lap time across the line, only 0.13 of a tenth slower. So we need to lock in, focus up for this final lap, because I think a 0.0 is already in there, and to see what we can do. But again, even with 0.0, it's only 5 tenths faster than the online setup. Again, 5 tenths is everything in F1 sim racing, but if you're just playing the game casually, it's not that bad. It's not that different, in all honesty. So what can we do on this final lap to absolutely try and maximize? We've got a little bit of a gap to the AI behind us, you can see just coming into picture there. So we are going to be a bit cheeky, and we are going to cut the hairpin out, just so we're not at risk of being overtaken by the AI down the pit straight. Into the final apex of the lap, looking to manage that rear tire temperature a little bit better than we did last time. And now we're going to be flying down the pit straight, using the battery to the same percentage. Now looking to spot that braking point into turn 1. Good over the curb usage again would be ideal. Nice rotation. It was good. It wasn't spectacular, but it was decent. Kind of what we needed. Keep it in 7th again. Pretty much identical to our previous sector time. That was much better. That was not sluggish at all. Let the car rotate. Back on the power. That's nice through there. Bit conservative with the grass. But still was pretty decent. Using up the rest of our overtake. We should be about a tenth up. We're 1.3 tenths up. Nice through there. Through the hairpin. Was a bit cautious because of the wheel spin last time. Through the final corner. Wasn't perfect in the final corner, but still should be an improvement. 0.0. A 0.1 across the line. A 0.122. So, that is this test concluded. Of course, it's quite a light test because we didn't spend that much time on either setup. We spent 3 laps on either setup to keep it fair, but I think that's pretty conclusive. AI setups are not that bad. They are not that bad in the end. So as you can see on the screen now, 13.1, what is just over half a second faster than the AI setup. And you can see we jumped on. We didn't actually improve that final sector from our first lap, so clearly it wasn't that bad. But yeah, about a tenth faster in the first, a few tenths faster in the second, and a bit faster in the third as well. So pretty conclusive. About half a second. We did consistent laps on all of the laps as well. So yeah, pretty good test. And I think, yeah, the conclusion I have is the AI setup just isn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be a bit of a boat and to be undrivable, and of course the F1 sim racing setup is a bit more pointy, snappy, rotatey. Not something I think everyone would like because it's such an on-edge setup. As you can see, I was even having snaps of oversteer there when I wasn't driving it on the limit and being perfect with my inputs. But that's what you need to do to be fast in F1 sim racing, to be on the edge of grip, on the edge of balance, on the edge of performance. But yeah, very happy with that. That's the video concluded, comparing F1 sim racing setups to AI setups. And yeah, I'm going to miss that about F1 sim racing, to be honest. Of course, it's such a grind to get those setups, but yeah, it's something very special when you get that setup absolutely sweet point nailed on your practice, and it just is confidence inspiring going into the race. But I still want to do setup tuning on F1 25 and still maximize the game, but in a different way, you know. So yeah, it's something I'm going to miss, but something that I'm very grateful for the opportunity to work within teams and to be maximizing performance in those ways. And when you get it right, like I say, it's such a good feeling. But with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed the video. I've been Brendon Leigh, and I'll catch you next time. Grazie, ciao, ciao, bye bye.